Hello everyone, my name is Zenitsu and I'm back with another Digimon deck profile video. So today I'm going to be taking a look at EX3, and EX3 offers us a lot of new and powerful tools to be able to build and iterate on some new and existing decks. And today's deck I'm going to be taking a look at is going to not necessarily be the most meta competitive deck. It is more of a casual deck, but it does have a decent amount of variety in terms of the approaches that you could take to the deck to still make it really fun and exciting, and that's going to be a brand new iteration on the ChaosGallantmon deck. So if you're unfamiliar with the core theme of the deck, it is all about self-deletion. So you want to delete your Digimon to be able to utilize your abilities to do very powerful things, and the Digimon that you're primarily going to want to delete also will have on-delete effects, so that way you could gain extra benefits for the act of deleting your Digimon with some decent recursion to be able to get those fodder material Digimon back so you could delete them over and over again, or just keep them on the field if you really need them to sit on the field. So with all that said and done, let's just dive right into the deck profile. Starting off with the Digitama, you could really customize the Digitamas in the deck to be what you want it to be, but I settled on just utilizing the good old classic 4 copies of Gigimon, just so we can have some extra ways to be able to DP boost our Digimon in the deck, so we can ensure that our Digimon have the highest rate of survival, because there's not a whole lot of ways this deck actually gains DP. So that's one of the reasons why I'm using Gigimon. Also, Gigimon is really good to be able to efficiently use the EX3 Guilmon with, so it's just a really easy card for us to want to run for that reason. But Purple has some really good Digitamas that all can be very flexible with how the deck wants to play, utilizing mill-based synergies and utilizing some various other on-deletion-based synergies. But as far as the rookies go, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Gazimon. So Gazimon is in the deck just because he's an anti-meta floodgate that we are able to recur in case he does get deleted. So Gazimon stops the opponent from doing their memory manipulating shenanigans on anything but their tamers, really limiting the opponent's actions, forcing them to deal with Gazimon before they could do what they want to do. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Guilmon. So this is the BT5 purple Guilmon, and he has the on-delete ability of being able to gain us a memory when he's deleted by a card effect, which is something the deck is already doing a lot of because we have some pretty decent and easy ways to be able to delete our Digimon. Next, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Psychemon. So Psychemon is another anti-meta floodgate that is trying to stop the opponent from reducing their play costs, again, forcing them to try to deal with Psychemon before they could do some of their actions. So between stopping them from manipulating their memory and stopping them from reducing the play cost of their cards, we have ways to try to disrupt the opponent as best as we possibly can for literally just sitting on some rookies, which is what we want anyway, because we have ways to delete them to be able to gain some additional benefits, which is the whole core theme of the deck, and ways to be able to bring them back for whatever we need to, being able to toolbox which one we need at any given moment. And then the last rookie of the deck is going to be 4 copies of Guilmon. So this is the EX3 version of Guilmon, and part of the reason why I'm running the Gigimon egg is for this card, just because he digivolves for 0 on top of a Gigimon. Otherwise, we're going to have to pay 1 to digivolve him on top of something like a Demi-Meramon. But regardless, we're utilizing him in the deck just because, like the other Guilmon, he has an on-delete ability himself, where we're either deleting the opponent's Digimon or we're milling the top 2 cards of both players' decks, so it's just a good card to use because of that on-delete effect that we're going to be gaining for when we're deleting this card. Next, on to the champions, I'm going to be running 4 copies of BlackGrowlmon. So BlackGrowlmon is going to be helping with the overall damage output of the deck by having an easy way for us to be able to gain access at Security Attack +1 for literally just the act of us deleting one of our other Digimon, which is something we have the ability to do and want to do in the deck. Next, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Ginkakumon Promote. So Ginkakumon Promote is kind of a flex spot for the deck. It could really be whatever you feel like you want it to be, but I really do like the utility that Ginkakumon Promote actually adds. So he's a pretty decent level 4 just because he could digivolve on top of another level 4, so that way we have some additional ways to cycle as we're digivolving up our chain, and this is really good because it allows us to be able to keep an inheritable source when we're utilizing our BlackWarGrowlmon BlackWarGrowlmon. Then on top of that, he natively has the Rush ability, so if we use our ChaosGallantmon's ability to res a level 3 Digimon, we then, if we have enough memory, could use that level 3 Digimon to Digivolve into a Promote, and then be able to use the Rush to swing right away with for a little bit extra pressure, even though he doesn't have an inheritable ability, and we're never going to be utilizing the on-play ability. Just those big two factors alone just make him a really appealing card for the deck to use. And then the last champion of the deck is going to be 4 copies of Growlmon. So this is the brand new EX3 version of Growlmon, and he has a pretty decent ability to try to delete one of the opponent's Digimon with 3000 DP or less, so try to snipe some of their floodgates in case they're trying to stop and stall us out, or if nothing was deleted, then milling the top 2 of both players' decks is still pretty decent at trying to add some extra disruption while being able to set us up for the abilities that we want to use. Then what we're really trying to go for is his inheritable ability. Like the BlackGrowlmon that we just saw, it allows us to increase the overall damage output, except he's a little bit easier to use because when we attack with our Digimon, we get to delete one of our other Digimon to be able to gain security tech +1, so we don't need an outside effect to be able to grant our Digimon security tech +1 like the other one, and this one just does it built in. Next, on to the level 5s, I'm going to be running 4 copies of BlackWarGrowlmon. So BlackWarGrowlmon is still a fantastic card just because of how powerful his ability is at being able to set us up for whatever power plays that we need and what he can enable. So his main ability is a Digiburst 3 ability, which is why we like the Ginkakumon promote, so that way we can actually pick which inheritable ability we want to keep when we're using his Digiburst. But his Digiburst allows us to just bring back any level 3. Unfortunately, we don't get their on-play abilities, but all of the level 3s that we're running don't have any, so it's not like that matters. Then this first native ability helps set up his inheritable ability, where when we attack once per turn, we get to delete one of our other Digimon to unsuspend this Digimon. Even if we don't have the security attack +1, just the multi-attacking potential is still pretty good and valuable. And then the last ultimate of the deck is going to be 4 copies of the brand new EX3 version of WarGrowlmon. So this new version of WarGrowlmon is going to be trashing both players' decks by 3, so that way we could try to get their trash in a particular number. Mostly we want to get either player's trash at 5, so that way we could take advantage of the second part of his ability to either bring out a Guilmon, which is setting up a body, so that way we could combo with it and be able to delete him for our various abilities, or set up Takato, which is one of our tamers, which is pretty important because any way we have to be able to set up our cards for free is usually a good thing. Next, on to the level 6s, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Megidramon. So this is the EX2 version of Megidramon, and this card also counts as a ChaosGallantmon, which is pretty important for one of our other cards as a potential target for us to bring back. Then he has some pretty decent and beefy stats, where he has 13k natively, and he has a nice Wind Digivolving ability to try to either mill the opponent, or ideally try to delete one of their low-level Digimon that's 10,000 DP or less. And then on top of that, he has a nice on-delete ability himself to be able to play a Guilmon or a Takato from our hand or trash for free. Again, trying to be able to utilize our cards to the utmost potential by having the ability to be able to keep a constant board presence and have nice fodder potential for when we want to try to delete our Digimon for extra benefits. Next, I'm going to be running 3 copies of ChaosGallantmon. So ChaosGallantmon is a pretty underrated card and has some pretty decent combo potential. So when we Digivolve up into him, we just get to delete one of our Digimon to delete one of the opponent's level 5 or lower Digimon, triggering our on-delete abilities off of the card we want to delete ideally, and being able to clear the opponent's field, which is pretty valuable. Then he has a nice secondary ability that feeds into that first ability, where during your turn, once per turn, when one of your other Digimon is deleted, mainly off of his Wind Digivolving ability, we get to play a level 3 purple Digimon from our trash for free. Again, we don't get the on-play effects, but we don't necessarily care about that. We just care about having a body for us to be able to sacrifice again with. And that's the whole core strength of utilizing ChaosGallantmon, is this secondary ability to recursively be able to have a level 3 Digimon on our field for various different purposes. And then the last mega of the deck is going to be 2 copies of Megidramon. So this is the BT5 version of Megidramon, and this is a pretty okay card. His Wind Digivolving ability is a little bit less relevant, where it's just milling both players' decks by 5. But the more appealing aspect of the card, not only is it because it's a little bit cheaper than some of our other evolutions, but it's his on delete ability that allows us to be able to recursively play our other level 6s as long as we have a tamer on the field, namely going to be trying to bring back either our other Megidramon or our ChaosGallantmon. Next, on to the Tamers, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Takato. So Takato's in the deck just because we do have a lot of ways to be able to control the opponent's field, and for deleting the opponent's Digimon, we get to gain a memory by suspending this Tamer, which just helps makes our cards a little bit more efficient and effective to use. Then on top of that, he's also going to be granting our Gallantmons and Growlmons the Blitz ability for when we Digivolve up into them, so that way we have even more usability on our cards. Next, I'm going to be running 3 copies of Matt Ishida. So this is the BT2 version of Matt Ishida, and he's going to be acting as the deck's dedicated memory fixing tamer. So if our memory is ever less than 3, he's just always going to hard set it to 3, so that way we could try to make our plays as efficient as we possibly can. Then, on top of that, his on-play ability allows us to be able to return a purple Digimon or option from our trash to our hand to be able to reuse our cards over and over again. And then the last tamer of the deck is another flex spot. It could really be any kind of tamer or any kind of card that you feel like you want to use, but I really do just like the efficiency that the starter deck mat offers for the deck, just because the theme is deleting our own Digimon, and he has this nice ability for when one of our Digimon is deleted, we get to suspend this tamer to gain a memory, making our cards even more efficient and effective. And then lastly, onto the options, I'm going to be running 1 copy of Calling from the Darkness. So Calling from the Darkness is limited to 1, which is why we can only run 1 copy, but this card is so good, and with our mats to be able to grab back more copies of Calling, we have the ability to use it over and over again, even though it is limited to 1. So what this card is doing that's making it so good is we get to delete one of our Digimon, which is something we already want to do, and then we get to return up to 2 purple Digimon from our trash to our hand, again being able to reuse our cards as best as we possibly can. And the crazy thing about this card is if we have no Digimon on the field, then we could still grab back the 2 purple Digimon from our trash, making this just one of the better purple options for the deck to use. Next, I'm going to be running 3 copies of Meggido Flame. So this is going to be the primary removal option card for the deck, and it's actually a pretty powerful and efficient one for this deck to be using. So its main ability states that we get to delete one of the opponent's level 4 or lower Digimon, which might not seem very strong, but we get to delete one of our Digimon to be able to delete one of the opponent's level 6 or lower Digimon instead, which again feeds into the benefit of the deck just because we have recursive ways with our ChaosGallantmon to keep bodies on the field to be able to sacrifice them not only for our cards' extra benefits and bonuses, but to try to trigger the on-delete abilities of our cards over and over again, which just adds to the overall value of how this deck wants to play. Then, on top of that, the security ability just lets us play a Guilmon from our trash for free, so it's adding a body onto the field, which is pretty good because then we could either aggress with that card, use it to evolve into a new stack, or just use it as sacrificial fodder for some of our various other card effects. And then the last card and option of the deck is going to be 2 copies of Purple Memory Boost. So Purple Memory Boost is just a consistency booster, allowing us to try to look at the top 4 for any purple Digimon, which everything in the deck is purple, and add it into our hand to then set this card into the battle area to use for its secondary main ability of Delay later on to be able to gain 2 memory, so that way we can make even more powerful follow-up plays with. And then the deck does have some very rewarding and powerful combo plays for us to try to take advantage of, depending on what level 5 and what level 6 that we see. So a lot of our stacks are going to be based on the level 5 that we're going to try to be using or aiming to use, just because they do have some different levels of combo play in their initial setup. So if we do see BlackWarGrowlmon, then we're going to want to try to make it a pretty powerful stack, so that way we could utilize his Digiburst Digiburst ability as effective and efficiently as we possibly can, and we're going to be hiding him in raising versus raising out a level 4 to go into our level 5. So the ideal intended play with BlackWarGrowlmon is to use a level 3. The BT5 Guilmon is the preferred one, but if you have to use the other one, then that's still okay, depending on what tamers you currently have set up to be able to not pass turn. So we're going to then hide in raising a Growlmon. It could be either BlackWarGrowlmon or Growlmon. I think for this stack, it preferably wants us to use the BlackGrowlmon. And then this is where the promote comes in handy, so that way we can have another inheritable. So when we go into our BlackWarGrowlmon and move him out, we get to Digiburst 3, 1, 2, 3, and still keep an inheritable ability underneath him, so that way when we use his Digiburst to bring out the level 3 that we just trashed, then we get to go up into our ChaosGallantmon. If we have our memory fixing tamer already set up, then we're going to delete the Guilmon and not pass turn onto the opponent's side, and then still take full advantage of all of the buffs and benefits that we get, so that way we could revive the level 3 that we just destroyed, and then we get to swing with him, delete him due to BlackWarGrowlmon's ability to be able to restand him, and then because we deleted another Digimon, we get security attack +1 on the card, so he's going to swing for 4 security off of this little combo. And this is excluding any additional tamers outside of just our memory fixing tamer, which is why he's super important to set up. But if we're trying to utilize the other WarGrowlmon, then we do have to play a little bit differently, because this WarGrowlmon, we actually do want the other Growlmon in our stack. It doesn't necessarily matter what level 3 that we're going to be using, so that way we are going to raise out our level 4 Digimon, and then we're going to go into our Growlmon, hopefully set up our Takato or set up a Digimon on our field to be able to control the opponent's field and hopefully not pass the turn. And this is why the Takato is kind of important, because if we do have to pass the turn, then the Blitz just still allows us to be able to swing. And if we have another Digimon on our field, then that's just all the better. So that way we could try to take advantage of our inheritable abilities. So there is just a pretty decent amount of depth and variety in terms of how this deck can play, all depending on what level 5 that you're going to see and the types of stacks that you're going to be making. But the reason why Takato and Matt are both pretty good tamers for the deck to use is because we do have some pretty decent memory manipulation to be able to try to put us at the best advantageous position and not pass the turn as often as we possibly can when we're going to be making some of our big power and combo turns. But even if we don't necessarily see the ChaosGallantmon, the Megidramons are still pretty good, because even if we're hyper aggressive with these Megidramons, we still have their on delete abilities to fall back on top of their when digivolving abilities to still try to take advantage of. So it's just a pretty high synergistic deck that has some pretty decent and fun lines of combo play that we can use on top of some pretty decent control based elements. And then we still just have a whole bunch of other tech and tools that we could think about incorporating, all depending on how you want to build and play the deck. So I already mentioned that we could think about utilizing some different Digitama, namely the Demi-Miramons, because the BT3 one has a nice on-delete inheritable for us to use when we're raising out a Digimon just for it to be deleted. And then on top of that, we also have the BT8 Demi-Miramon as a really good card to synergize it with more mill-based synergies and strategies if that's the direction that you want to take it in. But as far as some other really good cards that we could think about for our main deck, we do have Tapermon and Elecmon as some really good sacrificial fodder level 3s. Tapermon's going to help us draw cards, and Elecmon's going to help delete the opponent's low-level Digimon. Then if we do want an inheritable ability to try to help us draw more for the act of deleting our Digimon, then the EX1 version of Tapermon is actually a surprisingly decent card for this style of deck. Then we do have another level 4 Digimon that we could use as a sacrificial fodder card in the form of Eismon Scatter Mode to try to add more consistency into the deck with his drawing 3 and discarding 2 ability. Then we do have an alternate win condition in the form of hybrids, so that way when we break all of the opponent's security, we do have some tamers that we could potentially have on the field unsuspended to use for hybrid plays to just win out of nowhere. Then on top of that, we do have Soulmon if we are going to lean a little bit more into the mill-based strategies to try to make some of our cards a little bit more effective and efficient. Then we do have another level 6 in the form of Megidramon to take advantage of the BT5 Megidramon as another ChaosGallantmon to bring out because he is considered a ChaosGallantmon, and his on-play ability allows us to try to delete the opponent's Digimon. Even though we're not playing any Trials of the Four Great Dragons, we don't necessarily care. He's just a good card to be able to bring out as a nice level 6. Then we do have some level 7s that we could think about playing into the deck. The honorary mention is going to be Millenniumon as a level 7 that we want to delete because his on-delete ability basically revives himself. Similarly, we could just run Omnimon's Thwart Defeat to try to control the opponent's field even better and still use as a really good card just because his Wind Digivolving ability is one of the few that's actually going to be deleting the opponent's Tamers, on top of him being a security Digimon to just have a surprise Digimon come out of nowhere for us to use for added pressure. Or we could just simplify all of that and just run something like an Omnimon's Thwart as just a really good card to bring out extra bodies and be a very powerful level 7 in his own right. Then, as far as some other really decent options go, we do have some alternative memory boosts. So we have Glaive Memory Boost to try to bring cards back from our trash into our hand. And then on top of that, if we are going to lean into more mill-based strategies, we do have Mist Memory Boost to help us mill a little bit more. Then, speaking of our mill-based strategies, we do have some other mill-based options that we could think about utilizing if that's the direction we want to go, in the form of Death Stinger for that potential memory gain, on top of Death the Cannon as a good card to just add back into our hand when it's milled, and they're both really decent cards at trying to delete the opponent's Digimon. Then we do have some pretty decent cards to try to help delete our Digimon for even more benefits. So we could run more removal in the form of Deathclaw and Pandemonium Flame, or we could run something that has a little bit more utility and adds to the overall damage potential of the deck in the form of Demonic Disaster. Then we do just have some other really good generic purple options like Jackraid for us to try to take advantage of as well if you could find the deck space for it, but you could also just alternatively run a decent Tamer in the form of Analog Youth because he is going to act as another good search tool for the deck, on top of the fact that he does have synergy when our high-level Digimon get deleted, which we then could do ourselves to be able to gain some extra memory and to potentially hatch another Digi-Egg into our raising area. So that's all I really have for this video. As always, feel free to tell me your thoughts down in the comments below, and down in the description below are a couple of different ways you could support me and the channel. So I do have a TCG Player affiliate link, so when you use that link to buy cards off of TCG Player, then some of that money will go to supporting me and the channel. I also do make and sell playmats over on Overcard Gamers on Facebook, so when you buy a playmat with my design, then some of that money will also go to help supporting me and the channel. And on top of all of that, I do have a Twitch account over on twitch.tv/Zenitsu, so giving me a follow and a subscription also helps support me there, and I do play Digimon on top of various other games on that platform as well. So thank you everyone for watching, and as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you in the next video.